Welcome to the best named train in Japan, the Thunderbird Express. Today we're travelling in the green car first class on a day trip from Osaka to Kyoto to see what it's like and if it's worth the upgrade for a relatively short journey. And on the way back we'll also be checking out the very unique Hello Kitty HARUKA train. Let's get going. Travelling from Osaka Station today, which thankfully wasn't too far a walk from our hotel. Although, as with a lot of our journeys in Japan, it did take us a little while to find exactly where we needed to be for the line that we were travelling on. But the first mission was to go and find a ticket machine. A lot of the ticket machines you use in Japan only accept cash, however most of the limited express ticket machines we found did seem to accept card, although because we had the cash available for the other ones we tended to just pay that way. And our last minute green card ticket, which is the equivalent of first class, was just £13 each. And I couldn't help but feel that if we were doing a similar length of journey in first class and we'd bought that ticket same day in the UK, it would cost about as much as a small house. So definitely impressed with how affordable travel is in Japan. Really easy to buy the tickets too using the English mode on the ticket machines, and there's plenty of English signage around the station to be able to easily find our way to our platform. And that's something I noticed in general around Japan that really quite surprised me on this visit. Our previous trip over to Japan had been about 8 years ago. And on that trip I did find it a bit more difficult to get around. There were definitely a lot less signs around in English, things like subway maps often wouldn't have English either, so the explosion in tourism definitely seems to have had an impact to make it a lot easier for tourists to explore now. You've just got to expect though that everywhere you do go will be a lot busier. Tourist sites can be pretty crowded, especially during peak tourist seasons. It can be very difficult at times to get into a restaurant without an advance reservation. And I was interested to see how busy our train was going to be today. When we were making our selection for our seats, it did seem like it was going to be a full carriage. And after a pretty short wait on the platform, the train arrived. The green car is located right at the front of the train, so we had a bit of a walk down to get to it, giving us a bit of an opportunity to look through the windows to see what the standard class is like. Seats here in a 2-2 configuration with a decent amount of space. And we made it on board to the green car, which is set out in a 2-1. So as you can tell here already, the seats are much wider than those offered in the standard class. And our seats today were right in the middle of the car. And despite the seat map looking busy, there really weren't many other people around. There's a huge amount of space available in these seats, with the seat in front being well ahead of you. To the bottom of the seat there's a small footrest, and the seat back has a pretty decent sized storage pocket. The centre armrest is nice and wide, so it's not a big deal to be sharing that with someone. And over at the outside armrest, this opens up, and a small tray table folds out from inside. Not really big enough to support a decent sized meal or anything, but good enough for a snack and somewhere for a drink to stay. Also at the side of this you've got the button for the recline, which I was about to try out before I realised there was someone sat behind me, and it felt like a bit of an asshole move to recline back in that seat given how many open seats there were available on the carriage. So I jumped across the aisle to try it out. A very good amount of recline available, and it'd be very comfortable for a long journey. And even though you might encroach a bit on the passenger behind you, there honestly is so much space in here I don't think it would matter too much. There's an adjustable headrest, but it wasn't the best, it did keep sliding down. You'll also find a small coat hook, and above the seats there's plenty of storage space. Not enough for a big suitcase or anything, but you'd be fine for a decent sized backpack. Our departure this morning was scheduled for 10:09, which is exactly when we started moving. Exactly what you'd expect from a train in Japan. Quite a slow roll out the station, but we'd soon be picking up a lot of speed. The Thunderbird Express can reach speeds of 130 km an hour, which makes it the fastest limited express train in Japan, with only the Shinkansen bullet trains going faster. Once we were underway, I made a quick pit stop in the toilets on board, and these really didn't feel particularly first class. With discarded toilet paper left on the floor, quite a small cramped space, and I'm actually amazed to say you get better facilities on a UK train than this. And although there was a small sink in here, it didn't actually have any soap. You had to go outside to a separate sink to find that. But then both at this sink and the one in the bathroom there was actually nowhere to dry your hands. On my way back to my seat I've noticed the space where you would put larger luggage. There was only one stop on this journey at Osaka Station, but no one really joined the carriage from there, so it remained nice and quiet in here for the rest of our journey. No idea why the seat map was showing most of them as blocked out. But it was a very comfortable and very pleasant ride. And it really did fly by. It's only about a 15 to 20 minute journey over to Kyoto, and having this convenient travel between the two was really the reason why we decided to stay in Osaka. When we were planning the trip we were probably a bit more interested in some of the stuff that was in Kyoto, but good quality hotels seemed a lot cheaper in Osaka, and I know there's a good food scene, so I just figured it made a lot of sense to stay in Osaka and just get a nice convenient train over to Kyoto. The Thunderbird Express was the option that made the most sense for us, just with us being close to Osaka Station, but if you are close to Osaka Station, then you do also have the option of taking the bullet train, and that would be the same Nozomi Shinkansen that you take through to Tokyo, and I do have a video of that journey on the channel. Something important to note about the green car is, although it is kind of like first class, there are certain things you might expect from a first class service that you won't receive here. For example, there's no food and drink service, but at least for the length of journey we were taking today, that's really not necessary. The train did have free Wi-Fi available, which I tried out and it worked well, but again, didn't exactly need it for the length of journey. And as we made our approach into Kyoto Station, we went past the Hello Kitty HARUKA train. The HARUKA line will take you to the airport in Osaka, so it's your best option of getting to and from the airport if you're staying in either Kyoto or Osaka. And on our way back today from Kyoto, just based on the timings of the available trains when we got to the station, that HARUKA train was the most convenient option for us, so we decided to go for that on the way back. So stick around and I'll show you what that journey was like very soon. But first, just to give my final thoughts on the Thunderbird Express, we really enjoyed the ride. It was really comfortable, a really quick and easy journey, and incredibly affordable. Did we need first class for a journey of this length? Absolutely not. And if you're travelling on a bit of a budget, I'm sure you'll be absolutely happy doing this journey in the standard class. But I think just given how used to riding on expensive UK trains we are, paying the equivalent of £13 for that felt like absolutely nothing. So the upgrade felt worth it to us. We arrived back at Kyoto Station a bit earlier than we expected to. After a bit of a grey and dreary morning, it had then been raining pretty much all afternoon. So we cut our sightseeing a bit shorter than we originally thought we would and made our way back to the station to see which train would be available. And after dumping all our leftover coins in the machine, tickets were required and we made our way through to the platform. It took us a bit of time to find this one. I think I misread the boards and took us off in the wrong direction to start with. I thought it was quite a nearby platform. Turns out it was the other end of the station. So we did have a bit of a panic that we weren't going to quite get there on time, as we had bought a ticket that was going to be leaving a few minutes after we bought it, but thankfully the train was still waiting on the platform for us when we got there. And thankfully we did actually have a few minutes to spare, so we were able to walk all the way down to our carriage, which is quite far away. The outside of the train is covered with these Hello Kitty decorations, and that continues on the inside of the train as well. I've got to admit though, obviously I've heard of Hello Kitty before, but I don't actually know what it is. Like, is it a cartoon? Is it a clothing thing? And why are people so obsessed with it? I remember when we went to Universal Studios in Osaka, there was a big Hello Kitty area, and the crowds that were going for that and queuing up for photos. Maybe someone can enlighten me in the comments. Making our way on board, there's big luggage racks near the entrance, very useful for those passengers taking this line to or from the airport. And we made our way through the carriage to find our seats. Seat layout here is in a 2-2 configuration, but the seats themselves are pretty big and spacious. The seats had a small pocket on the seat in front, and there was a big tray table that could fold down. Interesting to note that the standard class tray table here on the HARUKA train was much bigger than what we had in first class on the Thunderbird. However, not all the trains are the same. When we took this train over from the airport, it did have a slightly different configuration, mostly the same, but the tray table was a small one that folded out from the armrest. So a similar but much smaller version of what we had on the Thunderbird. But either way, both seats were very similar in comfort, pretty much the same seat overall. Lots of Hello Kitty decorations around the place, so on the walls, even on the headrest as well. And after testing out the decent recline, I had a quick look in the bathroom, which is also covered with Hello Kitty decorations. As well as the standard toilet here, there was a bit of a weird setup where there was a urinal with a door that didn't lock, and a window that allowed people to see through, and the mirror above the sink was set out in a Hello Kitty photo op. And when I got back to the seat, I did notice as well that the seat does have in-seat power, and that can be found in the armrest. And it was another really pleasant journey that went by super quick. And although we did try the green car on the way out, just being in standard class, I know it's a different train type, the HARUKA, but it's a very similar type of train, and being in standard class is very comfortable. You know, I'm very used to travelling on UK trains, where if you go in standard economy class, you tend to be a bit cramped, especially there's not much space between you and the seat in front of you. But on these trains in Japan, you get a lot more space, the seat itself is a lot more comfortable. And generally speaking, things are a hell of a lot more punctual. That's not always the case, however. When we travelled from Osaka to Tokyo, we travelled on the bullet train, and these are well known for being a really fast, really convenient way to travel around Japan, very rarely delayed, but of course when we took ours, we did have quite a bit of delays and disruption. But we did at least get to do that with a lot of comfort in the green car. So if you'd like to see what the first class bullet train experience is like in Japan and what happens when things don't quite go to plan, then go ahead and watch this video next. And if you've enjoyed this video and you want to see more of the same, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.